Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome to the Healing Exchange podcast, where you have me, your host, Jaquilla McFarley. So glad that you came back. You're tuning in. You're back and you're listening to me. Thank you for taking time out of your day. And let's exchange healing. So this episode gonna be a little bit different than how we usually do it, y'all. We gonna have a conversation because this episode I'm just gonna be venting. I'm gonna be talking. I might be jumping from topic to topic because y'all, I had a rough couple of weeks, man. Rough couple of weeks with just transitioning with different seasons, death of loved ones and friends, transition within my family, y'all. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I was gonna quit on y'all. The beginning of this week, I was finna quit. I was finna quit podcasting. I told the Lord, hey, I freaking quit. I told him I quit and I don't want to do it no more. Now I had my friends had to snap me out of it and I'm here. But I told them, I said, hey, because it seems like with the last episode, the last episode we talked about monsters, the monster inside me. And then with that, just to recap, I was just speaking about how you see all these people that are on TV that are like influencers that are being, or famous people, rapper, producer, whatever, that has a lot of power. They're being exposed and they're being exposed for their indiscretions, for the things that they did in the dark is coming to the light. And I was watching, and again, this is just a recap. As I'm watching those shows, I realized like when you see these documentaries, they take you to the childhood of that person. And I'm like, man, most of their childhood started out like mine. Molestation, rape, abandonment, rejection. And because they didn't deal with that, or that because they weren't paid attention to as a child, it just grew and grew and grew. And they acclaimed things in the world and fame and power. And it still caught up with them. They still were exposed. And it once your trauma, trauma creates like an insatiable appetite for things that you should not be wanting. Like, that's why I always tell people I dealt with a lot of judgment when I was being a homosexual and I was dating women. A lot of judgment because I'm a church baby. I was in a church, but I was doing it. I was sleeping with women, but people would cast judgment thinking, okay, you chose to be gay. You can just stop being gay. You can not like it. You can just like boys tomorrow. And instead of casting judgment, people don't ask you what your story is. What's that person's story? They didn't wake up one day and choose to be a lesbian or choose to be a homosexual. Something happened. Even if, because nowadays you got some people that they're just curious. Most of the time, though, it's because of pain. Something happened to them as to why they chose this sex. Me, I was raped. I was molested. I had abandonment issues with my father. The men in my life were toxic. They were terrible examples as men. I saw how my grandmother was being treated in the marriage. Every marriage in my life as a childhood was not healthy. And it was always the man being a rolling stone or, going out doing what they want to do. And the wife had to stay home and cook and clean and do all that extra stuff and just be cheated on. Because back then, especially if you had a marriage in the church, they did not believe in divorce. That man could do what he want to do, and you better not say nothing. That's what I saw. And I'm like, I don't want no man. All men do is hurt. All they do is hurt. They always hurt me. I feel better with women, But nobody asks me those questions. Nobody asked me what my story was. They just cast judgment. That's why I say people don't just wake up being monsters, man. People don't just wake up and they like these nasty things, or something started that pornography addiction. Something started them being an alcoholic or them being into drugs. They're trying to hide something. They're trying to numb themselves for something. There's always a story behind the decisions that people make. And it's just so unfair to cast judgment on someone when you haven't even asked them their story or even walked in their shoes as to why they are there. Don't know why I went there, but that's what we talked about last week. And y'all, I was challenged with that word. With what we talked about last week. My mind started going back to old ways. I started having some very bad, vile thoughts, and I was being encumbered by them and enamored by them, and they were drowning me to where I was like, man, my past is loud in my head right now. The things that I used to think, the things that I used to do, things I used to meditate on, it's like I was back in my past in my mind. I was back to the old me, just like that in my mind. Woke up like that. I mean, I woke up, went to devotion on my patio and talked to the Lord and said my affirmations, started my day off good. And Monday, my mind was terrible. My decision making was terrible. I didn't go back and do anything like via action, but the Bible said if you sin in your heart, it's the same as you actually doing it. If you, like, for example, you lust after a woman in your heart, like some of y'all be undressing people with your eyes, whatever you do in your heart is sin. It's just like you doing it for real, like doing it physically. If you're lusting in your heart or whatever you're doing in your heart, hatred in your heart, if you have unforgiveness in your heart, people think just because you don't do the action, but if you're thinking on it and you did it in your mind, you sinning. You still sin. So I didn't act out on any of those thoughts, but they were running my week to the point I was like, God, look, I quit. I'm not worthy for the seat. I'm not worthy to talk to your people. Like, this ain't it. And then I was trying to upload the reel from last week's episode. The reel it was giving me problems. Instagram, social media, all of them was giving me error messages, and the podcast episode wasn't uploading right on YouTube. I was just very frustrated. I'm like, look, God, this got to be a sign. I'm not supposed to be here. And I quit. Now, the thing about me, though, I always quit because I got to be dramatic first. But I'm going to be right back tomorrow. Just let me be dramatic. I have to be dramatic first. I have to go all the way there. I've always been like that, dramatic. I have to go all the way there. So, just imagine, I'm throwing in the towel, and God done threw the towel back at me like, psych, what towel you throwing in? So go on, have your little moment, have your temper tantrum, but I need you to get back up. But it was just crazy. I started work when I uploaded the reel, because I introduced the reel to introduce the episode. It seemed like nobody was looking at it or watching it. And I'm like, this is the first time that I started caring about shares and likes and views. Because when I started this podcast, I didn't care about that stuff. I would upload it and just walk away, so that that likes and shares and views doesn't define me. Because this is only the beginning anyway. But it was overtaking my thoughts. Like, nobody's liking it anyway. Ain't nobody watching it. I give up. My ratings ain't going nowhere. It was a mess. And of course because y'all, I was this close to making an announcement to y'all saying, hey, the Healing Exchange podcast is over. It's no more. Sorry. It was good for a season or two, but I'm done. I quit. So I almost quit on y'all last week. I almost did. But thank God for friends. Thank God for villages and people in your life, because adults need villages too. Thank God I was surrounded by so accountability and people that helped me to snap out of it. Like, girl, what is you talking about? You acting crazy. You not quitting? Why would you quit? And they had to bring me back. Like, bring me back. Hey, what is the real reason that you're doing this? Were you doing it for likes and shares? Why were you doing this? Did you think this road was going to be perfect? What's your why? Why were you doing this? I lost my why this week. Completely lost my why. Why I'm doing this. Forgot that God gave me this. The reason he gave it to me, I completely lost sight of the vision because I was so enamored by my mind. And then again, y'all, we having a conversation. Time goes on. Found out like a week or so ago that I had a old friend that passed away just suddenly. She basically dropped dead, 34 years old. And the thing about that was this old friend was connected to a church that caused me quite a bit of trauma. That's where my church hurt really started. They call it church hurt. Now I don't think there's a such thing, because if there's church hurt, then there should be work hurt and, grocery store hurt. Why is it just church hurt? Anyway, tangent. But some people, and I'm not knocking you if you believe in church hurt, but that's where my church hurt started. And that church, a lot, I was so connected with the pastor, a woman pastor at that time. She was like my spiritual mother. Created relationships, developed relationships. I was their drummer, the musician, but was involved in different things. Learned a lot at that church, actually. Learned a lot. Learned about the prophetic. Tapped into my gift the more. Learned a lot at that church. So I'm not here complaining about the ministry, but I'm going somewhere. I'm just trying to connect it. I got to kind of give y'all the backstory. So this old friend died. She was part of my old church that I left on bad terms with everybody. A lot of connections were disconnected. It was very hurtful. It was very hurtful experience. And imagine you being attached to those people, and then all of a sudden the attachment is just cut out. And I had a very strong attachment to the pastor. She was literally my spiritual mother. And at the time, I had mommy wounds. I wanted a mother figure in my life, because I didn't have my mother. That's what I needed. That's what I wanted. But the connection was it was unhealthy at times. Very unhealthy at times. So at that time, I would do wherever she wanted me to do. I would stand up for her, fight for her. She was my spiritual mother. So I hadn't seen these people in about 7 years. Hadn't seen them in 7 years. How I left was traumatic. Didn't think I would ever see them again. And then I thought that I forgave the pastor. I thought I forgave her. And you know how you think. We think we forgive something because we haven't been confronted with it, or we think we'll never see the situation or see the person ever again. Until that old friend died, and I realized, and I was like, okay, let me go to the funeral to support. And I'm like, oh, snap. I'm going to see them again. It's been 7 years and I have not seen them. And how I left was on bad terms. So it then got all within the same week now. I'm dealing with my thoughts, and now I'm dealing with, oh my God, I'm about to be facing a part of my past that I thought I will never see again. So now I'm thinking, as soon as I realized, and it wasn't so much the people I was having anxiety over, It was the pastor. It was like, man, what am I going to do when I see her? What's going to happen? Like, is she the same? Because everybody played a part in how that situation transpired. We all played a part. We all made mistakes and what we done or what we said. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going back and thinking like, okay, she's going to be the same. You know, whatever I was thinking, I'm like, it's probably going to be the same. And I was nervous. And then I realized, man, did I really forgive this woman? Have I really forgiven her? And then I had to evaluate my heart. And I was like, man, I don't think I really forgave her. I think that I just forgot about it because I never thought I would see her again. So I never thought it would be brought up again. I never thought I would see that church again. But the thing is, I would every now and again throughout those 7 years that I wasn't there, it would be memories and things like the wounds that I got from there would sometimes come up out of my heart, and I would think about it, and then I would just forget about it again. So it was still hurting me, but I was pushing it back, if I'm being honest. So imagine, I'm like, oh my God, I got to see this woman again. Because I was going to the funeral and support. I was going to go and support. So I went to the funeral. It was today. And let me say this. I did evaluate my heart. I evaluated my heart, went to the funeral, which was today. And, well, it'll be Monday for y'all when y'all hear this, but today meaning Saturday. And sitting in the funeral, and it's like I was grieving my old friend. I was grieving her, but it was also like I was grieving that church that I came from. I was grieving the church as I was grieving my friend, because remember, I'm seeing all of these people from 7 years ago. Everybody looked different, I definitely looked different than I did 7 years ago. Half of them couldn't even recognize me because of the weight, and just, they say I look more grown up, whatever that means. So I'm like, I'm at the funeral crying, grieving this friend because she was young, and just grieving, really sitting and dealing with the loss of that situation like it just happened. Especially seeing the pastor up there, because, when you die with African American church, whatever church you're a part of, that pastor does the eulogy, pretty much, and it's over the service, which is how it was here, and she was still a part of that church. So I was like, oh. And then it was the total opposite of what I thought it was going to be. I saw the pastor, and she looked at me and immediately embraced me. I thought she was going to be ignoring me or walk past me or act like I wasn't there, whatever I was thinking. Just such a pessimist, but forgive me, because it was a bad week. I'll be honest. It was not a good week. It just was not a good week. And then the weather done got hot again, and y'all know how my allergies are. Allergies, pollen everywhere. Sneezing, I wake up swollen. Anyway, so it was the complete opposite. I saw her and she embraced me. And I was so shocked and taken aback by this. And I'm like, wow, people really do change and evolve. Like, people really are able and capable of changing and evolving. I don't know why, and I'm going here, when somebody does something against us, it's something either small or big. Let's just say it's big. It was a deep wound. Time goes by, and maybe we don't see that person as much, but we always keep them in the box of they never ain't gonna change, or they're not capable of change. They're always gonna be the same messed up person because of what they did to you, what they did to me. but everybody's capable of change. If God is waking you up every day, he's giving you a chance, grace and mercy to change. So that's why, and I keep saying this on every episode, it must be really important. Somebody must really need to hear me say it repeatedly. Forgive. Forgive. First of all, life is truly short. We used to say that cliche and say it, and we really don't have the time we think we have. We really do not. Old and young people are dying. Suddenly. Tomorrow is literally not promised. Literally, it is not promised. We can only think about today. Forgive. You cannot get into heaven with unforgiveness in your heart. And are them people worth going to hell for anyway? Ain't nobody. I do not care who, what, even if it's me. Ain't nobody worth going to hell over. Hell is real, just like heaven is real. That's what I believe now. I don't know what you believe. Heaven and hell is real. Forgive. Forgive. Even if you have to forgive without an apology. Y'all know I had a problem with revenge. I wanted to know what you sorry for. Like, I want to know, hey, can you please forgive me? Forgive you for what? I want you to say what you did to me. What you did to me. I want you to say it so I can really know you sorry. And we on the same page here as to what you did to me. I was so selfish and prideful in that way. But sometimes you have to forgive without an apology. Sometimes you have to take an apology in an unspoken way. Some people don't know how to say the words, I'm sorry, or they're too prideful to say, I'm sorry, although they know they're wrong. You got to take what you can take, though. Forgive without the apology, or take the unspoken apology, because it's for you. It's not for them. And forgiveness is not saying, I'm okay with what you did. That's not what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is saying, I'm over what you did. You did it. It was not okay. You hurt me. I recognize that. And that was not okay. But I'm going to forgive you for me. I'm going to forgive you for my sake, for my sanity, for my spirit, so that I can love right, so I can move on and treat the people that actually want to love me, to treat the people and exist in this world in a healthy way without holding, the least of all, that person back, holding myself back because of what that person did to me, because I'm holding on to the offense. Holding on to the offense is not hurting them. They might feel bad, but it's hurting you worse. And sorry, y'all. These allergies, Jesus. Oh. It's hurting you worse. So, sister, brother, please forgive. Reconcile if you can. And reconciliation doesn't mean reconnection. You don't have to reconnect with them people or that person. But you can reconcile. Hey, that's what I did today. I reconciled. We had an unspoken apology. We forgave each other because I wasn't always right in what I did to her. Me speaking of the pastor as just an example. I wasn't always right. I said and did things that weren't right. But you have to let it go. You have to release it. Life is but a blip, man. It is a blip. It is a blip. And we ain't got time to quit either. And I'm talking to myself. You don't have the luxury of quitting just because it gets hard. And I went to therapy because y'all know I believe in Jesus and therapy. I went to therapy just talking to my therapist about everything. And she said, you know what? You have a hope problem. You don't believe in hope because you've been let down so much. And I said, you're right. She said, that's why it seems like you're sometimes because people call me unbothered or nonchalant because I don't get my hopes up. for a lot of stuff because I've been disappointed a lot. I'd rather think the worst than the best. So when the worst happens, if it happens, I was already prepared for that. I already knew. I already prepared for the worst. But that's a hope problem. Just because worse can happen doesn't mean you have to prepare for the worst. What if it works out? What if it actually works out? Just like we think, what if it doesn't work out? Why can't we put our mind in, what if it does work out? So she was like, yeah, you have a hope problem. You've been dismissed so much in your life. You've been disappointed to where you don't hope for anything. You don't expect anything good. And I said, God darn it, you right, Miss Ma'am. And my therapist, when I tell y'all, she be tearing me up. She be tearing me a new one. In a very polite way, of course. But she be telling me the truth. And I wasn't very hopeful for this funeral. And to be honest, I was about to run. I didn't want to confront it. What happens when God forces you to confront your past? You talking about anxiety to the highest. When I had to confront a part of my past today. A wound that I had been carrying deeply in my heart for this woman. That wound was sealed up and healed. And I felt so much better. I felt freer. It's like the second part of my mommy wound was sealed up. You know? And all it took was forgiveness and understanding. And for me to open up my heart. Suppose I went to the funeral. Because I was going to go to the funeral, pay my respects, and leave early before I saw any of them people or had to have a conversation. I was finna be out. But I would have been out running away from confrontation and coming home to a wound where when God gave me that opportunity today, sadly at a funeral, to get that wound healed up. In the inner, it was deep in my heart. Because remember, I pushed it down. Because I didn't think about it no more. Because I didn't think I would ever see her again. I had to dig in my heart and pull it back up. God put some heat on that wound, on those impurities, and brought them to the surface. Like, hey, you're not over this. Hey, you still hurt by what they did. Here is your opportunity. And I promise y'all, I was sitting in that funeral and I had so many confirmations, and God kept telling me, before you leave, make sure you give that woman a hug. And then all throughout, like 2 confirmations from one person, like talking about forgiveness. And then another lady came up to do, I know how they do the reflections at the funeral. She was saying she heard a word from the Lord that if you got an ought, you need to forgive because life is short. I'm like, all right, God, I hear you. So I stayed. I was obedient. And I'm glad I was obedient. Because I could have went into myself and left and was not obedient and made it worse for myself. We asked God, please heal this wound. God, I'm hurting. God, I need help in this area. God, please heal my heart. Whatever you pray, you tell him you're in pain. And when he presents the opportunities or the connections to help you, we run from it. Because it's not familiar or because it's tough. We run away from hard. We run away from hard. Living for God, living a healthy life is not easy. It's a hard road. It's a bumpy road. It's a road filled with twists and turns and drops and potholes and sinkholes and speed bumps, cracks in the road, dirt, bird poop, trees, confusing instructions. It's a living the straight and narrow. It doesn't mean it's going to be straight and narrow. That's why I don't like when new believers and new people that get saved, that come to God, come to Jesus, I don't like that the gospel is presented to them as if it's going to be easy. Being saved, being an ambassador of Christ, is not easy. Jesus didn't never tell us it was easy in the Bible. He never said, come to me, and it's going to be an easy road. He said, come to me and you'll have peace. In the midst of you carrying and bearing your cross, struggling. Life is sometimes a struggle. And I'm not talking about every day is a Groundhog Day. Every day is woe is me. Because the good thing about being in Jesus Christ, being a believer, is that trials and tribulations come, but he gives you joy in him. You could be in a storm and still have joy because Jesus is with you. You're struggling with him. You're going through with him, good and bad. You're carrying your cross. You're dealing with the different tests. You're dealing with the different temptations and things you may be dealing with, your trauma, your pain. You're dealing with it. You're facing it. But there is joy in him. He gives you joy through all of that. So no, let's not present the gospel as if, all right, come out the world, don't sin no more. Over here is rainbow and roses and butterflies. Because it's not always like that. And people be lying, talking about they was in the world, acting like they didn't have fun when they was in sin. I enjoyed. When I was out in the world, I enjoyed myself. Okay? I ain't finna be standing up there in the pulpit talk about coming down on the world. I had a good time in my flesh. It felt so good. I love me some whiskey and vodka. Still do sometimes. But now I have to say no. Now I have to find joy in other things. And the positive things in Jesus. So just because you're saved, and I know I'm jumping from topic to topic, y'all, I'm venting. That's just the type of week I had. I feel like I had so much in me that I couldn't circle it with just one topic. I really couldn't. It was just so much going on. So get the lessons whenever throughout this episode. But yes, the gospel is not always pretty. You have to intentionally choose Jesus every day. You have to work out your own soul salvation. And the Bible tells us all of this. There ain't nowhere in the Bible where it said it's going to be easy. You have to die to your flesh daily. Boy, I wanted some. Y'all, I wanted to smoke a blunt this week. I wanted to get high. I wanted to get drunk. I wanted to call up one of my old boo things and be like, come over. I wanted to numb, get away, escape, whatever from the reality I was in this week. But I stayed in it. I felt it. I got through it. I was obedient in it. Did everything God told me to do, although I didn't want to do it, or I was slow for doing that. Now, some things, I ain't jump at it real quick, but I still did it. Because, even slow obedience is still disobedience. When you procrastinate on what God tell you to do now, and you do it in your own time, that's disobedience. Because he told you to do it now, and you procrastinate because you don't want to do it. You might as well just not do it. Because some things are time sensitive. Today, this funeral, this open door for reconciliation was time sensitive. It might have been another 10 years before God gave me this opportunity. And not to say the funeral was the opportunity, because it's so unfortunate that my old friend died. But it happened, and he knew. And he said, go. Although I was scared, I went. And guess what was there? My healer. I had to be obedient, because although it didn't look like my healing was there. It looked like I was going to get burnt again. But my healing was there. My healing was in that hug. My healing was in confronting and forgiving. So the biggest thing I want to say, because all of this stuff I shared with y'all, all of this is just a part of my process of becoming a better person, becoming who I'm supposed to be and how I'm supposed to exist in this world. And I wanted to be honest on this show, because on this episode, because not like I'm not always honest, but I didn't want to make this episode a lesson per se like I do. I just wanted to be honest and vent to y'all that even when you're in purpose, even when you're pursuing purpose, even when you're choosing to live an intentional life of doing the right thing, living for God, you're going to have weeks or sometimes days, maybe a month, where you feel like giving up, where you feel like the things that you have to work on is too much. It's too much, Lord. Sometimes you get tired of doing good. Sometimes doing bad and just letting go and just being whatever your flesh wants you to be feels good. Feels better to just let go. I'm tired of holding this up. I'm tired of choosing to do right sometimes. And those days are okay to have. Those days are okay to have. But what's not okay is for you to stay in those days, stay in those moments. You have to get back up. You have to have people around you to snap you out of it. You have to incorporate prayer and give God your feelings, your emotions, and tell him what's going on. Not because he don't already know. He wants you to be aware and tell him and include him and want him to know what's going on. Give it to him. Literally give it to him. Journal. I DIY'd my patio, and it's my prayer room now. I go out there and pray about 6:45ish in the morning before I work, in the rocking chair, rocking myself, writing if I need to, reading the Bible or a book to get me going. But I give all of that to God. He can handle it. He already knows where you're at. We cannot fool him. He sees your heart. He wants you to come to him, though, and admit where your heart is. And ask him for help. Ask him for guidance. Don't be afraid to be in those moments. I was in that moment each day. And I was going to quit. But look where I'm at. Look where I'm at. God was like, psych, quitting where? So don't give up. Be in your process. Be in your truth. Don't lie to yourself. If the bad moment is where you are, say that. Admit that. If you're not ready to confront something, say that. And don't push yourself to confront something too early. Really evaluate your heart and tell the truth. Tell the truth. We be lying to ourselves, thinking we're ready to do something that we're not ready for, or thinking we are somewhere that we're not. You think you on this level, but really you on this level. But pride is telling you up here. But the truth is you down here, sis. You down in this area, brother. Let's tell the truth so we can get here. Because truth, authenticity, vulnerability are requirements to the next level. You cannot get there without those things. All right. I love y'all. Like, share, follow. I'm going to start dishing stuff out. Y'all inbox me if you have a question. Next week's episode is going to be good. It's going to be really, really good. It's going to be a topic that people have been asking me about, a topic that I can't talk about because I haven't gone through it. I ain't going to tell y'all yet. I'm going to wait till y'all see it. But thank you for indulging me while I vent. I hope y'all have a good week. Be in the moment. Be in your process. Don't give up. Even if you feel like getting up, call somebody. Don't sit there. Call somebody so they can snap you out of it. Pray. Keep God in the center. Have a great day. Say your affirmations. I love y'all, and I'm going to see y'all next week.